Now we consider the third case of a madman, crazy fellow. Who is a madman? Last time there was somebody who worked in Tanjung Rambutan. So he said, if you look at a madman, the mind is running all over the place. And for example, when the person is eating, you give him some food to eat because it's time for his meal. He will eat. After maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, suddenly a thought occurs to him to do something. And then he forgets that he's eating, suddenly he gets up, spills the food all over the place and he goes to do something. Maybe go and do some carpentry work. And then after doing for a short while, suddenly the mind tells him to do something else. He drops that and do something else. So, this person has a deluded mind. A mad fellow has an unfocused mind. He does not see things as they really are. Because he does not have a developed mind. He has a mind that is, one screw loose, muddled up mind. So you can see the practice of Sati Sampajanna is not so simple. It's not just mindfulness or awareness. In the practice of mindfulness, you have to remember all the time to direct it on body, mind and Dhamma, not outside on the external world. And you have to be in the present. And then the third one, you have to see all things as mind and body, as this is not mine, this is not I, this is not myself. But still, this is not sufficient if you have a deluded mind, like the crazy fellow, the insane person. Because that deluded person is unable to see things as they really are. In fact, in the suttas, the Buddha said, only the Arahant is sane. Only the Arahant is sane, not mad. This implies we are all insane to a certain extent. We may not be tiga suku, but maybe one suku. Now, the condition to make us undeluded, to be able to see things as they really are, is given in several suttas as samadhi, concentration of mind. If you have samadhi, then you are able to see things clearly. Why? Because when you have samadhi, the hindrances, the 5 hindrances are abandoned. So you can see that to practice Sati Sampajanna, you must have samadhi. Samadhi must go hand in hand with Sati Sampajanna. That is why, you see, before I come to that, the practice of Sati Sampajanna is basically called Vipassana. And Vipassana means contemplation. It does not mean insight. Because in the Sutta, in the Anguttara Nikaya 2.3.10, it is stated that insight is the result of practicing Vipassana. So, insight is the result of Vipassana. So, Vipassana cannot be insight. Vipassana is contemplation. If you contemplate properly, then you have insight. So, Sati Sampajanna is basically Vipassana. Now, the practice of Samadhi is called Samatha. Samatha means tranquilization of the mind. You tranquilize, you make the mind peaceful. So peaceful until you get Samadhi. So the result of practicing Samatha is Samadhi. And this Vipassana and Samatha go hand in hand. You cannot do without one. Now, in a sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 4.170, this sutta was spoken by Venerable Ananda. And when Venerable Ananda was very old and the Buddha had passed into Nibbana, so all the monks and nuns who attained Arahanthood, they would come and declare to the Venerable Ananda that they had become Arahants. So in this sutta, Venerable Ananda said, all the monks and nuns who had attained Arahanthood and came to declare to him that they attained Arahanthood, all of them said that they attained Arahanthood by one of 4 ways. In other words, the way to liberation is only within these 4 ways. of meditation. There's no other way, because all arahants attain by these 4 ways. What are these 4 ways? First one is practice samatha first, followed by vipassana. This one I think most people know. We practice samatha first, followed by vipassana. The second one is practice vipassana first, followed by samatha. This one many people don't realize. Even if you practice vipassana, you still cannot become an arahant if you don't practice samatha. So vipassana followed by samatha. The third one is samatha and vipassana together. And the fourth one is meditation on the self, trying to inquire, who is this self? Who am I? Is it the body? Then slowly you realize it's not the body. Then is it the mind? And then you start investigating the mind until the mind becomes one-pointed. After the mind becomes one-pointed, then the way is clear to you, how to practice. So all these 4 methods needs both samatha and vipassana. Both samatha and vipassana are needed. There is no way to attain arahanthood without samatha practice. So you see from the second method that when you practice vipassana, you still have to practice samatha. This shows also that vipassana is not insight. If vipassana is insight, then you don't need to practice samatha anymore. Vipassana is just contemplation. Contemplation, it gives you some insight. But if your samadhi is not enough, it's not able to give you the deep insight necessary for arahanthood. That's why that person has to practice samatha. And then only he has attained that condition where a deeper insight can be attained. So from here you can see that vipassana cannot be insight. Now this samatha and vipassana can be said to be the positive and the negative aspect of meditation. Because when you practice samatha, you cool the mind, you tranquilize the mind, you make the mind calmer and calmer and calmer, cooler and cooler and cooler. The opposite of that is an agitated mind. An agitated mind, a hot mind, is the opposite. That is not the way to nibbana, because the state of nibbana means a cool state, a totally cool state. So you can see that from here, that samatha, because it's bringing you your mind cooler and cooler and cooler, is bringing you nearer and nearer and nearer to nibbana. And jhana is an intense state of concentration, perfect concentration. Can be said to be halfway stations to nibbana. It is halfway stations to nibbana because it is a cool state. That's why in one sutta, the Buddha said, even if you attain the first jhana, when a monk attains the first jhana, he is cooled, he has crossed over. This term, cooled and crossed over, normally is used for the arahant. But the Buddha used it for the first jhana, and the second jhana, and the third jhana, and all jhanas. The other thing is, when a person attains arahanthood, it is said that the asavas are destroyed. The asava cease. So we have to understand what is asava. Asava means uncontrolled mental outflows. That means the mind. Actually, the word asava literally means outflows, leakage, low in Chinese. So it means uncontrolled mental outflows. The mind flows without control. It's because the mind flows without control that we think, that we daydream, that we fantasize. We like to think because the asavas tend to leak, to flow. So we have to stop. We have to make the asavas cease. That is our aim. To become an arahant, we have to make the asavas cease. Now, the beautiful thing about jhana is that when a person attains jhana, the mind stops leaking, stops flowing. So the asavas cease temporarily in a state of jhana because the mind is concentrated on one object. It becomes kind of absorbed in that one object and it becomes still. So, when you attain jhana, you are making your asava cease for that moment. So, you can see from here why jhana is necessary. Because if your aim is to totally make the asava cease, and you can't make them cease even for a short while, then you have no hope of making it cease permanently. So since you want to make the asavas stop flowing permanently, you must be able to make them stop temporarily. And that is the state of jhana. That is why jhana is necessary for a person to become an arahant. So from here you can see that samatha is the positive aspect of meditation because it brings you towards nibbana. Now vipassana is the negative aspect of meditation. Negative aspect, why? Because when you practice vipassana, Sati Sampajanna, you have to remember the three things. To put your contemplation on body, mind and Dhamma, you have to be in the present. And the third thing, you have to remember that body and mind is not mine, not I, not myself. That's why it's called the negative aspect, because you are trying to see that this body and this mind is not I, not mine, not myself. And so, it is a bit similar to dana and sila. Dana is the positive aspect of doing good, helping somebody. Sila is the negative aspect of doing good, not harming somebody. When you keep your precepts, you don't harm other beings. So that is the negative aspect. And dana is the positive aspect. So similarly, samatha and vipassana is the positive aspect and the negative aspect of meditation. To recapitulate, the practice of Sati Sampajanna is basically called vipassana. And the practice of samadhi is called samatha. And we saw just now that both are needed. And you can understand why both are needed, because sati is the seventh factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. Samadhi is the eighth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. That is why both are necessary. The Noble Eightfold Path, all 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path are necessary to make us get out of samsara, to become an arahant. You cannot leave out any one of the 8 factors. That is why you cannot leave out samadhi. Now what is satipatthana? Satipatthana is different from sati because of the additional word patthana. And what is patthana? Pa in the Pali dictionary, pa literally means going forward. It also implies going beyond, or extreme, or intense. And thana means a position, a state. So patthana means extreme or intense state. So satipatthana is an intense state of sati. Satipatthana means an intense state of sati, not ordinary sati, but an intense state of sati. And in the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 44, satipatthana is said to be a characteristic mark of samadhi. Characteristic mark of samadhi. In other words, when you have samadhi, you automatically have satipatthana. Satipatthana is like a characteristic of samadhi. And samadhi in the suttas is always defined as one-pointedness of mind or the 4 jhanas. One-pointedness of mind means any jhana. So when you have jhana, you automatically have satipatthana. And in the description of the 4th jhana, the Buddha said that there is complete purity of sati in the 4th jhana. There is complete purity of sati in the 4th jhana. The other jhanas you also have very pure sati, but perhaps not completely pure, clear with the suttas. That is why they can say that there is no sati in the jhanas. Now, in the Sangyutta Nikaya, Venerable Anuruddha was known to have great psychic power. His psychic power was so great that he could see world systems like in the palm of his hand so clearly. His mind was developed, expanded so much that he could see world system, stars, everything in the palm of his hand. So people asked him, what is the condition? What did you practice to attain such great psychic power? And Venerable Anuruddha said, Satipatthana, to obtain psychic power. Now we all know that the condition to obtain psychic power is generally stated to be jhana. So when he said that he practiced Satipatthana to attain psychic power, it shows that Satipatthana is synonymous with jhana. When you attain Satipatthana, it means you have attained jhana. And so in the practice of sati, if you practice sati intensely, it becomes Satipatthana. And Satipatthana is equivalent to jhana, which is samadhi. And this agrees with Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 117, where it is stated that the Aryan Eightfold Path is to be practiced one by one. First you must attain right view. And to attain right view, you must listen to the suttas. And when you attain right view, you are actually a Sotapanna. So after attaining right view, that will lead you to attain right thoughts, the second factor of the Aryan Eightfold Path. And right thoughts will lead you to attain right speech. Right speech will lead you to right action. Right action will lead you to right livelihood. And that will lead you to right effort, which will lead you to right sati, or perfect sati, recollection. And that, if you practice perfect recollection, sati, that will lead you to samadhi, perfect samadhi. That is stated in Majjhima Nikaya 117. So you can see that when you practice sati intensely, it becomes Satipatthana, which is basically jhana. So actually jhana is a part of the practice of Sati Sampajanna, because jhana is actually Satipatthana. So when you perfect this sati, the practice of sati, it turns into jhana or Satipatthana. That is why Anapanasati, which is actually Anapanasati is a samatha practice, it is included in the Satipatthana Sutta under recollection of the body. And the Buddha said that the breath is a type of body. Contemplating the breath is contemplating a type of body. That is why people don't understand why Anapanasati is included in the Satipatthana Sutta. Because Anapanasati is basically a samatha practice. But as I mentioned just now, if you practice sati intensely, then you attain Satipatthana, which is jhana. So from here you can see that sati, the practice of sati and the practice of samadhi, they are related. Now I discuss a bit of the practice of Sati Sampajanna. But this, I think many of you who have been practicing meditation or studying the Satipatthana Sutta, you might already know. So in the practice of Sati Sampajanna, when we contemplate body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, we have to see how they are conditioned, that they are impermanent. They arise through certain conditions, they persist due to certain conditions, and they pass away due to certain conditions. That is why in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha said, you have to contemplate the arising factors, the vanishing factors. And then you can see anicca, dukkha and anatta, impermanence, suffering and not self. So in the contemplation of the body, one of the practices is to contemplate the four elements of the body. We have to see how the body consists of these four things: earth, water, fire, wind. Earth, water, fire, wind is not literally earth, water, fire, wind. Earth represents the hardness element, and water represents the fluids, fire represents the heat element, and wind is the wind element. So when we examine our body, we find that we have the hardness element in us, which is basically like, for example, our teeth is hard, our nails are hard, our hair is hard, our bones are hard, even our organs, heart and liver, etc., they have a certain degree of hardness. So these are the earth components in our body. And then the fluids, like our blood, our urine, our phlegm, etc., these represent the water element in us. And the heat in our body represents the heat element. And the winds in our body, which come out through our mouth, through the bottom, etc., these represent the wind element in us. So when we examine our body in this way, we see that our body basically consists of the four elements, just like other things in the world. Other things in the world also has the these four elements. For example, a tree. A tree has the hardness element, it has the fluid element, and it has some heat element, and it has the wind element also within. That's why when you pour water on a plant, the water is sucked up because of the wind element. It's the motion. The wind goes, all the nutriments goes up to the leaves, etc. So when we contemplate our body again, we find that our body is conditioned by food. If we have good food, then we have a strong and a growing body. For example, a young person, because of taking food, it starts to grow. So that is the arising factor. And without good food, one is weak and may sicken and die. And if a person is starving, you can see the body deteriorating. So that is the vanishing factors of the body. And again, you can contemplate how the body is easily affected by weather. If the weather is too hot or too cold, we get sick. It is affected by contact. Suppose somebody were to take a sharp object and poke you, you get hurt. So your body is easily hurt by contact. It is easily affected by air. If there's too much pollution in the air, it poisons our system. We can get sick, we can get cancer of the nose, we can get cancer of the lung, etc. And then our body depends on water. If you don't have enough water, the body cannot survive. And then the body depends on nutriment, etc. So the body is just is something that depends on so many factors. If any one of these factors is lacking, then the body cannot survive. In fact, we are a bit like a tree. If a tree, if the tree you don't give it fertilizer, it doesn't grow well. If you don't give it enough water, it may just dry up and die. If the sun is too hot, also the tree may die. So the tree is a bit like the human body. Like if we cut the human body, blood flows out. If you cut a tree, the sap flows out. So if we did not have any consciousness in our body, if we do not have this consciousness, then this body is no different from a tree. So from here, when you start contemplating, you can see that this body is not the self. This body is not the self because it's just like any other thing in the world. If you don't have the consciousness, and then later, if you want to contemplate the mind, or consciousness is another part. The other thing in the practice of contemplation of the body is the 32 parts of the body, and that is to help us to cut off lust, sensual lust for the body. I mentioned a bit just now about you have to recite the 32 parts of the body: head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, bones, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, liver, midriff, spleen, lung, etc. Until you finish 32 parts. Now when you first learn it, you have to learn the recitation first. Forwards and backwards, forwards and backwards. Then later, after you have it in your mind, then you recite more slowly. Head, hair. Then you contemplate how a head hair looks like, how a head hair feels like, etc. Body hair, similarly, head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, etc. So you recite one by one, and you contemplate the nature of each of these 32 parts of the body. And if you don't, certain organs are inside us. We may have never seen, for example, the lungs. You have never seen your lungs, and have never seen a human lung. So you don't know exactly how a lung looks like, or a heart. You don't know how it feels like. So if you want to practice this, you probably have to go to the market, go and buy a pig lung or a pig heart, and you take it and you poke it and you touch it, how it feels, whether it's hard or soft, etc. Then you can have a better idea. So when you contemplate, then you contemplate, oh, my heart is also like this, my lung is also like this. So when you practice this after some time, then you are able to understand how the body actually is in reality. Then you, like in Chinese, they say, Quan Sen Puqing, isn't it? Contemplate the body as impure, as impurity. So when you see the 32 parts of the body more clearly, then you can see that the body is not so attractive after all. Then another type of contemplation in the Satipatthana Sutta is to contemplate on the various types of corpses. A corpse is 3 days old. Some of you, I'm quite sure many of you have seen a corpse which is 3 days old, because our Chinese, if somebody passes away, they put the body in a coffin and they keep it for 3 days or 5 days or 7 days. So with the glass there for you to see the face. Then when you look at the face, you see it for the first time, you get a bit horrified. It's a bit swollen, blue-black. But that is the way our body is going to turn. After some time, we are going to die. And then the body, or our body also will become like that. So there is nothing to be ashamed about, to be horrified about, because our own body is going to turn like that one day. So before it turns like that, we contemplate. And then if it's 5 days old, how will you look like? You will start to swell, start to smell. And then the maggots and all will start to appear, eating. And then the fluids will start coming out of the nose, the mouth, the ears, etc. And the private parts, etc. And after it swelled up to a certain degree, then you will burst, and then you will collapse. I think some of you have seen a dog dead on the road, or a cow dead on the road, having been knocked by some car. Then you observe it, you pass it every day, and then you observe how the dog or the cow, it becomes bloated up, and then the skin becomes very tight. And then after some time it bursts, and all the maggots you can see. So our body also will become like that. And then after some time, the flesh will start becoming less and less as the maggots eat it. You can still see some blood. After some time, maybe the very little flesh is left, and then the blood also will dry up. And after a while, you see it as a skeleton, only bones. And after a long time, even the bones will start deteriorating. After some time, you see the head here, the leg there, the hand, different place, all over the place. And after some time, they will turn into dust. So when we contemplate that way, then it helps us to cut off the conceit, I am, I exist. Last time when I was in Thailand, I was staying in a monastery where they had a place for cremation. And it was purposely built so that the monks could witness the cremation. They had these bricks and all that laid with a place for putting a lot of wood. And then they put the corpse on top of that pile of wood, Then the monks will go and see before they light. Then you observe the corpse, and then they pour some petrol, etc. And then they light a fire, and then there's a big flame. and it will burn for a few hours. After several hours, you go back and look. That old lady that you saw suddenly disappeared into nothing, into bones, into fragments, into powder. Then you realize that person that you saw so solid, so real before you, suddenly disappeared into nothing. Then you realize how impermanent the body is. And actually, it is just a temporary thing. So the Buddha said, just like a car. Originally there is no car. Then they assemble all the parts. Put the window, the glass, the tires, everything, and then you call it a car. Or in the Buddha's time, it was a carriage, chariot. And later, after the car gets broken down, after 20, 30 years, it's thrown into some rubbish heap. Then the whole thing starts to deteriorate. The tire will go one place, the windscreen will be broken, all the parts all over the place. Then where's the car? There's no car. It's just a temporary condition. So from there, if we contemplate in this way, it helps us to see that there is no permanent abiding entity in anything in the world.